Hi, thanks for checking out our channel. This is going to be part 2 of the repair on this unit. Part 1, I'll put a little thing across the top here that you can click on and take you to the first part, or I'll have a link down in the description where you can go to the first part and watch that if you haven't seen it yet. But parts finally came in for this, to repair this board. I'm hoping that we got the right parts and that's all that it needs. If not, I'll have to dig a little deeper and see what else is wrong. But so far, we're going to replace the known parts that are bad just by the visual looks of some stuff. And then when we get those parts replaced, we'll plug it in and see what happens. So if you like this kind of stuff, you like seeing things get repaired or how things work on electric fence equipment or just electronic stuff in general, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button. If you go to our actual channel and just scroll, we've got a boatload of videos on electric fence stuff and how to use things, how to test things, how to repair things, how things work, review videos on some things. We also do the work on the low bars and weigh scales for cattle and livestock weigh scale applications. So we do a little bit of that too. So if you know somebody has a need for that or whatever, have them look us up. There's links down in the description as well for our websites that show, tell you a little bit about us and what we do. But we work on everything electric fence related that can be worked on, or that has been made. We've worked on things that are 50, 60 years old. We've worked on things that were made 2 years ago. We get a little bit of we get a little bit of everything coming through. All right, so we're going to get into this thing and start the repair process of this and see what happens. This is an O'Brien's model 16/110. This is an I think it's a 2007 model based on when it was built. The customer has like 3 or 4 of these things, but he only sent us one because, well, if you can't fix one, there's no point in sending you 3 or 4. Just junk the other ones. And he sent us some other units, but they're not of the O'Brien's or I don't remember, they're Power Wizard or something like that. But anyways, this unit's already been taken apart, all the screws out of it. If you want to see how to take it apart and all that stuff, you got to watch the first video. I'm not going to go back through all that stuff all over again. So let's get this cover off here. And so the parts that we're going to replace right now is this big capacitor right here. It's all swelled up. I'll try to get a closer look for you. It's all swelled up the top. See a big old bulge on the top of it here. This one here is starting to, not a whole lot, but it's starting to. And this one over here is starting to bubble up just a little bit. So we're going to replace these 2 small ones and that one large one. That's probably the main problem with the thing, is this right here. I mean, there's this big piece here, there's other parts on here and stuff, but I mean, this thing's pretty sophisticated to a point. It's got a lot of surface mount components on there, but physically looking at them, they look okay, but sometimes looks can be deceiving. So we'll get into this thing and see what we can do. So we're going to use our soldering iron. We're going to suck the solder off of this thing right here. And one thing you want to do, because these are electrolytic caps, they've got a polarity to them. These big red ones over here and over here, they're capacitors as well, but they don't have a polarity. So they can go in any way you want, but these have to go in a certain way for them to work right. So what we're going to do, so I don't forget, and I can't take a picture of it right now and go back and look at it while I'm recording the video. I'm going to put a purple mark up here, which is, this is just a marker that I've got some purple Sharpie marker. And I'm going to put a purple line on, this is the negative side of the capacitor. It's got a little stripe on there and has a little negative symbol on there. So I'm going to put a purple mark right there on the board. So I know when I pull this out and set it down, I grab a new one, I go to put it on there, I'm like, okay, where did that go? And I can think, okay, well, the purple mark's on the negative side, which is going right over there. And we'll do the same thing on these 2. We'll do a purple mark here, purple mark on the board. So I know that the hole, there's 2 leads on each of these capacitors. I know which one is my negative, which one goes in that hole closest to the purple one. So we'll do the same thing over here on this one as well. Alright, so we're going to get the new capacitors out of their bag here. They just came in a couple days ago, but I haven't had a chance to work on anything yet. Not this one anyways. And the weird thing is, you know, I looked at the capacitors. I mean, this is the same size, voltage, and everything, but it's a little bit smaller physically. I mean, it's a little bit smaller around, but you know, this thing's 13 years old. This is brand new, so maybe they've been able to make them a little more compact in size. These capacitors basically look the same size as the other one, and they're the same rating as well. So we're gonna pull this board up. I put the screws in there so I didn't lose them. I just shut them in the box on the bottom of the case here, but I want to be able to get to them. Pull this transformer out of here to kind of get me some more working room. And then we're going to unplug these 2 red wires. And there's no polarity to it, but just to make sure that they go right, I'm going to put a mark here on this one and mark the board there. So I know that this one with the mark on it goes to the one that's marked there. Now I can kind of spread this board out a little bit, turn the light on so I can see a little bit better. Alright. We need to find a solder joint. So there's this big capacitor here. It looks like it's, well, it's going to be possibly these two or that one. It's hard to say. There's I don't know how. I would say it's probably those two. If I had to take a guess, probably this one and this one. All right, so we're going to get our desoldering iron, or desoldering braid. I'm going to suck the solder off both spots. Clean the solder iron off a little bit more. There we go. And we're going to heat that up. Oh, I got some crap on my solder iron here I need to clean up. Give me just a second here. I'm going to pause this video. Solder iron working right, and then we'll get going again. Hold on. Can't quite hit the pause button. Alright, I think we're good to go now. I went ahead and took the solder off the top one just while I was playing around with this thing. I had just some crud on the tip of the solder iron. I couldn't get a good contact with the solder on the board. Got to get off the top and the bottom sides of the tab there. See if I can pick the right two. Now we're going to wiggle, pull that bolt pull on this. Yep, there we go. Got that pulled off there. So now we're going to take a new one. There's the stripe with the negative on it. That's going to go inside. I remember now because it's only been a few minutes that negative side goes towards the purple spot there. So we're going to put that right there. Bend the leads just a little bit so it helps hold that thing in place. Transformer is kind of heavy on this thing once I pull the stupid thing backwards. Clean the solder iron again. And we'll tin the soldering iron. And then we'll solder this back on. There's one. Wrong side, there we go. Second one. Alright, and then we'll take cutters here and cut off the excess. So that one's done. So that's basically what I'm going to do to these two smaller ones. So instead of showing you how to do that, it's the same thing. I'm just going to do it and then I'll bring it back on here again. So give me a couple minutes here. Alright, I had a little trouble getting that one off. I actually pulled the leads right off the thing when I pulled it off there. And it's because I got solder on the top side as well. So, you know, you can't see because the capacitor's sitting on top of it. So, when they soldered them from the factory way back when when I put the solder on the one side, it actually bled through to the front side. So I had a hell of a time getting that first capacitor off, or the second capacitor off the first of the small ones. So I actually got to go on here. It's hard to see because I got a bad angle here. I got to suck the solder off this side as well. Hold there for a moment. Got that one, so now let's do this one. Got that one. I haven't done the other small one over here yet. Just because I hadn't gotten to it yet. So we'll go and solder this one on. Only thing I worry about is the solder joints are so freaking small, the size of pinheads, basically, real small. And I just hope that the solder actually takes and didn't ruin the solder pad. If I did, I'll have to jumper a wire from where it was at to where it goes electrically in the same. Touch that up a little bit more. I may need to put a little flux on there and get that thing to take. So give me a little bit here, and I'll do this real quick. All right. This wire over here took to the solder joint. This wire didn't. So I was afraid that maybe that solder pad popped off the board when I was doing it. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to put a jumper wire from this wire to the next solder joint, which is right there, a little bitty one right there. So I need to find a small wire and do that real quick. But this one here is good to go. So I'm going to cut that off. I'm just going to make sure. Yeah, that's fine. Had a little excess on there, but that popped right off there. But that one there, we're going to have to... Actually, I think it actually took. Let me pull on this capacitor real quick, make sure. Okay, yeah, we're going to do some rework on there real quick. Alright, so what I got to do is, as I was kind of playing with it a little bit, I've actually got to jumper both of them. I got to do this one over to here and this one over to here because they're so small, it's hard to tell if you got all the solder off there or not. And when that solder was on the front side of that board where I couldn't see it and I started pulling on things, I actually pulled the solder pad off there on one of them. The other one's barely hanging on. So what I've got to do is I'm going to have to jumper a wire from the solder joint of one side of the capacitor to another solder joint that's electrically the same spot. And I got to do the same thing on that one. So I'm going to take a little, there's not a lot of current going through this. You don't need a big gauge wire. So we're going to tin the wire of this one, add a little solder to it. And then we're going to put it right there on that one. And then when that gets hardened up on there, cut that to length. Pull the insulation off. And then we'll solder it to the one electrically right next to it. And then I'll trim off, I'll get a smaller pair of side cutters and we'll pop it off there. So we're going to go right there. God dang, it's so freaking small, I can hardly see. We get smaller cutters here. We'll get rid of that. Clean that up just a little bit. All right, that side's done. I'm going to cut off some of this. leave some of it there so I can grab onto it. We'll do the same thing to this one. So sometimes, you know, you get these old ones in that you know, they don't make any parts from. I mean, O'Brien's still around. It's Australian or New Zealand company, but they've got some kind of affiliation down there, still making something. Mostly they're a plastics company, but they do make, you know, fence chargers or something down there. I kind of looked them up here the other day. So now we're going to solder these, just kind of fuse them together. Want to raise it up just a little bit off the board. That way it doesn't touch anything it shouldn't touch. All right, on a roll. On a, get out of here. Add a little solder to this tab right there. And we're going to kind of cut that to length. We'll cut it a little long, so I have a little to play with. And I'm going to strip off the end there. Add a little solder to it. I'll have to make that probably a little bit smaller. All right, this is going to be tight fit. It should work. Get a little solder on there. Actually, that might have took already. Let me just make sure. Whoops. All right. So that one's done. Let's double check and make sure everything looks clean where it needs to go. All right. Well, one down or two down, one to go. So I'll go ahead and get this one pulled off. I think it's those two solder joints right there. So we'll do those two. And hopefully, you know what we might try doing? We might just try heating it up, pulling them out that way since they're soldered probably on both sides. Okay, one came out. Okay, this came out like that, so we'll just do it that way. I basically just heated the solder joints. If I wasn't on, couldn't see it, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at the camera. But I basically heated up each solder joint one at a time, kind of worked it back and forth, and kind of went back and forth between each solder joint and wiggled this thing, and it finally just popped out of there. So maybe I should have done it on that other one too, but I didn't know if that the solder on the front side of the board. So now we're going to take a new capacitor, plug it into the board, and hopefully the solder joints are okay. We don't have to do any more of that jumper wiring crap, but you know, we will if we have to. We're going to take a little solder, add it to that one. I think that one's okay. I think we're okay. That one's, I'm going to have to do that one again. So this one, we're going to have to just, well, it's actually pretty easy. I just got to bend, oh, it's hot. Bend it over. We'll cut off the excess here in a minute, but I'm missing a solder to this next solder joint right over here. I gotta clean the solder off there. It blobbed off my soldering iron onto the board where it doesn't need to go. And now we'll solder wants to follow gravity. Come on, get down there. Oh, put a little flux on there. Hopefully be able to touch it. Let it go right on there. Let's see if it took. Nope. Let me add a little solder to that solder joint. There. Kind of clean that off there a little bit. And then we'll, that solder and soldering iron gets hot. The soldering iron is set to 800 degrees. Okay, I think it took. We'll give it a second to kind of cool off here. It's stuck on there now where it's supposed to be. So now we'll do that. Well, I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to make this a 3-part deal. So hopefully the third part will be us wiring it back up and putting it back together and then testing it. So cross your fingers is all it's going to take. I mean, we're doing our best on it so far, and they don't make any parts for this thing anymore. So if it can't fix it, he is out of luck on getting it fixed because they don't make the parts for it anymore. But we'll give it our best shot. But hopefully you liked the video. I mean, I know this wasn't the cleanest thing to do and everything. It was kind of a hard thing to solder and see what we were doing. But, I'm trying to do the best I can with only having 2 hands. And I've been able to hold a camera in the right spot and everything. And I can move things around and move the camera around, this and that. But I'm doing the best I can for you guys. But, all right, well, this third video we'll do is, like I said, the final assembly of things and plugging things back in, rewiring it, and plugging it in and see what happens. But hopefully you liked the video. Subscribe to the channel, and like I said, if you haven't seen part 1, go to the first part, and we'll put a link to part 3 as well down the bottom, and maybe a little thing across the top of the screen up here so you can just click on it and go right to it. But anyways, until next time, we'll see you in just a little bit.